Free flu vaccination starts today in the GTA. Humboldt player moves legs after experimental surgery in Thailand. The world celebrates the 30th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Humber News starts now.
Hello, I'm Madeline Jafarnajad, coming to you from our newsroom at Humber's North Campus. It's Friday, November 8th. Here's what's making news this hour. Roll up your sleeves, Toronto. It's flu season, and the Toronto Public Health opened its vaccine clinics today. Every year, the flu kills 3,500 Canadians, and 12,000 are hospitalized. Humber reporter Zainab Zaman attended the first free clinic at the Toronto Reference Library and has more on the story.
Toronto residents can now get free flu shots at one of 4 vaccine clinics across the city. The shot is available to everyone and does not require a health card. Toronto Public Health has made it an option for people to register online for quicker access, or they can walk in at their convenience. Health officials say that the flu vaccine is the most effective method of protecting your immune system.
Every year the flu virus spreads at the end of the fall, the beginning of December, and it usually lasts until spring. And we know that the flu virus can make people sick. 10% of adults and 30% of children get sick every year from the flu. Some get quite sick. And we know that the flu vaccine is our best protection against the flu. And so that's why we're hosting this clinic.
Nurse officials were busy setting up for the opening, and Toronto Public Health is expecting a good turnout as online time slots are filling up quickly. Upon arrival, people are asked to sign a release form and answer a few health-related questions before getting their shot. Once the paperwork is complete, all that's left is the needle.
I think everybody should get a flu shot because we all have to live and work with each other, and not everybody can get a flu shot. So if people have compromised immunity systems, we need to be able to protect them. So even if it's not for me, it's for my community, and it's very important to me.
Over the span of the week, there will be multiple clinics set up across the GTA. Anyone can get the flu, and anyone can choose whether or not they want to get vaccinated. Toronto Public Health is making it easier for people to make that decision. I'm Zainab Zaman for Humber News.
It's been a bad week for violence in the GTA as Toronto's West End is looking at its 5th shooting this week alone. A 14-year-old girl is in serious but not life-threatening condition after being shot in both legs at Finch and Weston Road this morning. Police say the suspect is known and they are still investigating. According to police, the girl was with as many as 5 people when the gun went off, but was left alone until emergency crews arrived. Toronto police say 614 people have been injured by gunfire this year as of November 3rd. Autopsies will be performed on 2 Brampton boys, Jonathan and Nicholas Bastidas, that were murdered in their family home on Wednesday. Media reports are now saying investigators believe suffocation was the cause of the death. 52-year-old Edwin Bastidas is their father and was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder yesterday afternoon. There's still no known motive. Police are asking people to come forward if they have any information about the case. History was made 30 years ago when one of the world's largest symbol of division was dismantled in Germany, as the eyes of the world tuned in. Tomorrow will mark 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, with East and West Germany being reunited almost a year later in October 1990. The wall was built by Communist East Germany in 1961 at the height of the Cold War. It prevented East German citizens from fleeing to capitalist West Germany for a better life. The Berlin Wall was not only a political divide, but it separated families because no one could ever enter or leave either side. People who attempted to travel over, under, or around the wall were either killed or arrested on sight. More than 5,000 East Germans managed to escape, but 170 were killed trying. For many years, there was pressure on East Germany and the former Soviet Union to let people travel freely.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
30 years later, the history of the wall still lives on in Berlin as a prominent symbol of the standoff between the USSR and Western Bloc. The Ontario government has unveiled the design for the memorial to honor Canadian heroes of the war in Afghanistan. This monument will honor the veterans of the fallen members of the Canadian Armed Forces who served in Afghanistan. The memorial will be located on the south lawn of Queen's Park within the footprint of Ontario Veterans Memorial. The new memorial will consist of granite and bronze elements and etched with images from the war that tell the story of Canada's involvement in the conflict. Teachers' unions are preparing to take the Ontario government to court over their new salary cap. The new legislation caps all public sector employees to a 1% wage increase annually for the next 3 years. Ontario's Treasury Board president says the cap is fair and time-limited approach. The new cap is going to affect more than 1 million employees at schools, hospitals, long-term care facilities, and other public services across the province. The unions are currently in negotiations with the government, and they say the legislation shatters any prospect of good faith in the negotiations. 4 unions are representing high school, elementary, and Catholic, and French scarping to take the government to court. Elementary and high school teachers are already preparing for a strike later this month. Drake is getting into the cannabis business. The rapper says he's partnering with Canopy Growth Corporation to launch the More Life Growth Company, a licensed cannabis producer based in Toronto. Canopy Growth says they will continue to operate the facility and retain the distribution rights. However, Drake will own 60% of the company's shares. More Life Growth will have a production facility in Scarborough that is licensed for cultivation, processing, and sale of weed. Drake is just the latest celebrity to partner with a cannabis company, following in the footsteps of lifestyle guru Martha Stewart and rapper Snoop Dogg. In other weed news, a domestic flight from Toronto to Vancouver was forced to land in Seattle. Not only did it turn a 5-hour trip into a 13-hour ordeal, but it also raised the issue about cross-border cannabis problems. While cannabis is legal in Canada, it's forbidden to bring the drug across the border. That's why passengers became nervous as the plane approached the American airport. An immigration lawyer says the best advice would be to flush your stash in the washroom before you leave the plane. An anonymous senior member of the Trump administration is back behind the writer's desk with more to say about the U.S. president. His new book, titled A Warning, is said to paint a chilling picture of the current administration. News organizations were given early access to the book, say it describes the president as confused and easily irritated. Experts from the book published by Washington Post likened the president to an elderly uncle running around pantless. Statements from the White House call the anonymous author a coward who published lies. The book is written by the same whistleblower from a 2018 New York Times op-ed. It is slated for the release later this month. 6 people are dead and more than 300 injured after a magnitude 5.9 earthquake hits northwestern Iran. A tremor struck at around 2 a.m. in eastern Iran, and there have been more than 50 aftershocks. Initial reports said 3 small villages were destroyed in the quake. Iran sits on a major fault line between Arabian and Eurasian plates and has experienced many earthquakes in the past. The area is some 400 kilometers northwest of Iran's capital, Tehran. State television reports that only 13 people need to be hospitalized, and many of the injuries happened when they fled in panic. A Hong Kong student has died from injuries sustained after a serious falling during protests. This added fuel to the ongoing demonstrations and vigils by pro-democracy activists. Alex Chow fell from the ledge of a parking garage during a police operation to clear the area. The 22-year-old's death came after another week of political violence in Hong Kong. Fellow students at the city's University and Science and Technology called for an investigation into how Chow fell and why it took paramedics nearly 20 minutes to arrive. Police said they used tear gas to disperse protesters near the site, but denied any wrongdoing. As the death toll of the anti-government Iraq protests are nearing 100, the United Nations is becoming gravely concerned and are calling for an end to the protests. Things aren't getting any better for Iraqi citizens as anti-government protests continue. The protests, which started in the capital on Tuesday, later ended up spreading into the south side of the country. Since the start of the protests, at least 99 people have been killed and nearly 4,000 people have been injured. The UN is calling the deaths senseless and are calling to an end to the violence.
We urge the Iraqi government to ensure it complies with its obligations to protect the exercise of the right of peaceful assembly. This means taking preventative steps to protect demonstrators from armed elements, as well as issuing clear instructions to security forces to abide by international norms and standards on the use of force.
Demonstrators say they are protesting to fight against unemployment, poor public services, and corruption in the country. We're going to take a quick break. Still ahead, the latest in sports. But first, Madison has a preview of your 3-day weather forecast.
It's quite chilly right now, but the sun is shining. So if you do get outside today, make sure you dress appropriately for the weather. I'll have your 3-day forecast in a bit.